Okay. Okay. Because I think one session I did not record, so I'll be recording. So to summarize for the recording purpose, we need to discuss these three issues: relative scarcity, what it is; price mechanism, how it works; the marginal value, what is it used for; and the added value, which comes from the book of the Capital by Karl Marx. So now, what is relative scarcity? Here is what scarcity, which is as in Russia rate cost, called the rate cost, I believe, rate cost. What it means is that products and services at any point in time are not sufficient to satisfy the needs of the public / people. That's the idea. Now that's what Smith came up from his studies of economy. He said that, look, at any point of time, if there is any number of people, then their needs will always be more than what's available. So if I can make it like diagram, let's say this is the needs. Need one, different needs. For example, need, call this for food. Another need for drinks. Another need for, let's say, for medicine. Okay, so let me say and make it like these are the needs here. Assume that I have the needs for food. Let's say need for 1,000 item. Let's say 1,000 loaf of bread. Assume this is, and need for drinks. Let's say 1,000 bottle of water. So let's say we need this much. And here, let's say for medicine, let's say 1,000 pills of any medicine. Doesn't matter what medicine it's. Let's say that's what the needs are. This on one side, and here on the other side, let me put in gold. And actually, let me do it as square. Let's say I have 900 food items. 900 drinks. Make this 800. And make this, let's say, For example, I'm just saying 700 pills. So in the natural way, what Smith claims that the 1,000 people here, the people, they need 1,000 items. The supply is going to be, let's see what, so this is the supply here. And the supply, we'll say deficit equal 100. So which means there are 100 people will go unsatisfied here. The deficit equals 200. And here the deficit so what in, and this is normal, what let me say, the idea is that in normal situation, which is without, normal situation means without the interference of any power from outside. Okay, let's say in the market there are naturally 900 loaves of breads. In the market, naturally, there are 800 bottles of water. Naturally, there are 700 pills. That's what's available. And there will always be more people, more needs than less, which means the needs for the food in normal situation, there will always be a deficit. Now, a deficit, which means there is less. Deficit means you have always to define this once we do the word, especially in writing, when you want to write an article, there will be a deficit, which is there is this not enough supply. There is less supply than there is demand. That's for example, in the food, when we say the deficit 100 means 100 needs not satisfied. Now, you can think of the 100 needs not satisfied for food either. Let's say I am one person. I was able to buy bread, but I was not able to buy potatoes. Or I am a person who was not able to get neither potatoes nor bread. So I was left without the food. Or there is the services, of course. I did not mention the services here. Or the cost of food and the bread here is way beyond what I have. So I was not able to get my food and the bread. So there is 100 needs not satisfied. These needs, here the needs could be of one individual or there could be partial needs or partial needs I would say needs, I would say all needs, all or partial needs of one individual. Or needs of more than individual, more than one person. So that's the essence of the scarcity, which says, look, let's say in this season, season of Corona, in some places now, of course, Corona, because of the crisis, there are, there are more needs than there is supply. Corona is a good example. Like last year, they would say people who are demanding for food way beyond the food supply. Why? Or the product supply, because the supply chains were cut off. Like in America, for example, let's take America, which is the largest capitalist country. In America, usually they depended on products coming from China. So between the month of March and the month of July, before things started easing, the supplies were not enough in the market. And if you remember, so the we call it the Corona case from March 2020 to July 2021, supply chains were interrupted. You know what supply chains are, right?
Yes.
Supply chains from, especially from China. To US. Okay, so and there was the case, if you remember, we take this and put it on the slide here. The famous case of, sorry to mention this stupid example, but it's a good example, toilet papers. So probably you have seen on TV how some people, they were really fighting in the store, or someone is grabbing more of toilet papers, and there was insufficient, and this became like an anecdote on US public TVs. You remember this case, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and of course this was a symbolic, but in reality, all of the products were like this. My kids in America, they said we would rush to the grocery store looking for some bread, and if you don't come early enough, you will not have, because someone will come and grab everything that's in the store and leave the other people behind. This reminds us of the time during the Soviet Union, where people would stand in a line for maybe 2 hours waiting for their turn to buy some tomatoes or some chicken that had arrived from somewhere, and you end up waiting in the line and not getting enough. So there was always insufficient supply. So that's what basically toilet paper is not on, or fight for. Okay. Which means not enough supply, and that's what means the rate cost or scarcity. So the relative scarcity here, for the example of 900 1,000 demand versus 1,000 supply. So you will do the math here. Will be 1,000 minus 900 divided by 1,000. So this is equal to 100 by 1,000, which is equal to 10% scarcity, relative scarcity. So the deficiency or the deficit is 10%. So in general, the deficit doesn't have to be 10%, it could be 1%, but the idea of Smith and Ricardo is there will always be like this. Now, what?
Excuse me, Sheikh, there, I think there should be 900 supply.
Yeah,
in
900
the example.
supply. 1,000 minus 900.
Yes.
Oh, it's the other way around. Yeah. Demand is 1,000. So I'm saying the demand is 1,000, the supply is 900. So it's in the negative. It will be, yeah. So it will be 900 minus. So if I just switch that.
I mean, above you have written relative scarcity for the example of 1,000 demands and.
Yeah, it's 1,000 demands. I am demanding 1,000 and there is only 900, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there is relative scarcity of the example 1,000 demand.
Demand, it's okay. Yes, here. Mm-hmm.
Versus 900 supply. So we'll get this back as it was. So that's how they look at it. Now the result here, of course, which is a natural result, there is 10% unsatisfied needs. Now these needs could be, again, food, drink, medicine, education, whatever. All these can be the, and that is according to any standard, in fact, this can be called the poverty line, poverty line rate. So what's the poverty line? Poverty poverty defined is the inability to satisfy one or more vital needs. Now, vital needs means a need that you cannot bypass. It's not, that's what it should be. Okay, that's our definition. It says inability to satisfy one or more vital needs. In capitalist theory, they expanded the needs. This is, I would say, this is the poverty for real. So when we say you are poor, it doesn't mean that because you cannot buy a Cadillac you are poor, or you cannot buy a Lexus car you are poor. It says you are poor because you cannot satisfy the food needs. You don't have enough food to satisfy your body requirement, like vitamins, proteins, the essentials. That's what we call vital. In poverty under capitalism, inability to satisfy any need a human or a person, not a human, because they don't care about humanity. Any need a person feels that he or she needs. Okay, so, and that's the theory here comes in, which probably you have seen. That's why capitalism, under capitalism, continues to create needs, to create real or even virtual, imaginary needs. What I mean by that, when they say, okay, you may, they say here, a person may have a need not only for bread, but for organic bread. Okay, there are people who do organic things. Okay, so they create this need. They keep saying that, look, you have to have organic bread, you have to have organic bread. Or another example, or a person has a need not only for a dress, but for a certain color of dress. Let's say a color that's absolutely innovative, new. It's a mixture between, let's say, red, orange, and pink. You find a totally new color, which there are probably 10 pieces in the whole market, but they create this type of need. So they say this is also a need. And that's why, because of this issue, okay, so in reality, capitalism expanded the definition of a need from vital need, which is necessary for survival, or the satisfaction, survival, or other instincts, like the instinct for religion or instinct for marriage and the social relations between men and women. So those are the needs, the actual needs for a human. These are, so they expanded that from those vital needs to needs which can be created all the time. They assume to be created, which in other words, as I said, so here the idea is the human real need, let's say, let me call it food need, is a need for any valid food that can satisfy hunger, which includes vital supplements like protein, carbs, vitamins. So any type of food that includes that, whether it's vegetable or meat or anything, that's the real need. But under capitalism, they created what's called I am hungry, they say. Now in real life, you say I'm hungry, period, so I need to eat. But under capitalism, they would say I am hungry for like McDonald's. And this is very common in the capitalist society. In America, you hear it a lot, especially within the younger generation at school or university even, or the kids, or they would say, I am thirsty for Coke. Okay, so that's typical. In real life, this is not true. In real life, you don't have this. I am hungry for. In the reality of a human, if you are hungry, means that the body needs nutrition. So you need nutrition. So whether you eat meat, bread, or potatoes, should be satisfying. Not necessarily McDonald's or shrimp for that matter. Say, I'm hungry for shrimp. Nobody, in reality, no one is really hungry for shrimp. You are hungry for food. So that's the main issue why so we said the understanding of the needs is what made Smith claim that there will never be a time when all supplies existing supplies can satisfy all the needs. And simply because he assumes that the needs of a human are exponentially growing, which means today I have 2 needs, tomorrow I will have 4, the next day I have 8, and so on. And I think there is even a formula which someone can find how the needs are increased, the rate of increase per year. Let's say per year the needs are increased by, not because you have more people, but you have the needs themselves, they get multiplied. So if you look, if somebody wants to, you can at some point check this as like take a study case in the food industry and check the variations of food styles created per year, and how many of the styles are advertised, and how many are become in large demand, okay, or in any demand. So this can be studied actually to show that indeed the capitalists, they did work on this issue and they made sure that always these needs are increased. So at any point, in fact, also you can do study case in the car industry, which is more obvious. So you could see that manufacturers, car manufacturers, create or build limited number of some styles. Okay, they create limited number of styles, and they make sure that the number of cars created or built is less than the number of people asking for them. So here is the catch. Well, the reason I brought this example is I want to see what really Smith, the theory, I would say it differently. In reality, I want to say it before I write it. In reality, when they started thinking relative scarcity, at the beginning, they thought naturally the supplies are less than the needs. There is always deficiency. But later, now when they advanced in time, they started actually making the relative scarcity. So there is a difference between, there is something called natural relative scarcity versus artificial. Natural, which means this is how much we produce in real life. And